higher water bills to a tight real estate market for retailers. San Antonio Express News business editor and columnist Greg Jefferson is here once again for the first business briefing of 2020. Welcome.
I'm not sure I'm up to it. But okay, yeah, Cedar Fever's killing me, but
well,
I'll give it a little effort.
Killing us all.
I know.
Yeah,
well, thank you for having me.
Of course, thanks for being here. Let's first start with the big one, the one that nobody really wants to talk about, but we're all going to feel it. Rate increases from SAWS and CPS Energy.
Oh, you're going to feel it. Oh, yeah. So with your water bill, you might not have noticed it over the last 4 years, but you've had 4 consecutive years of rate increases because SAWS entered into this very large project, Vista Ridge, which is a 142-mile pipeline coming in from Burleson County. The good news about it is that it really is going to cut pretty deeply into the city's reliance on the Edwards Aquifer. I mean, you don't want to overuse it. It's a finite pool of water. We don't know exactly how long it's going to last, but we do know that we've got a tremendous amount of population growth coming. So we need to look for alternatives. Vista Ridge is definitely an alternative. It is also an expensive one.
And we just reported yesterday the fact that as of January 1, there was already that 10% increase. Because of Vista Ridge, because of infrastructure. SAWS has been talking for years with the Environmental Protection Agency making upgrades to pipelines that were required by the EPA, right?
Exactly.
But there's more.
There's more.
But wait.
There's always more. And now SAWS is talking about, kind of at the instigation of Mayor Ron Nirenberg, maybe taking over aquifer protection from the city.
And we've talked a little bit about that here, but we don't know yet what that may look like for ratepayers.
Yeah, we don't. My guess is, right now the city is spending about $20 million a year in sales tax revenue to buy these conservation easements, basically to block development over the aquifer. I think there's almost no chance that SAWS is going to spend that much money. But they don't, SAWS does not have a lot of wiggle room. They've been, their costs for large projects like the sewer system and Vista Ridge, they've been going up. And they've been cutting other expenses. So I just don't know how much leeway they have. If they're going to take on a new cost, it seems like chances are good they're probably going to have to turn to the ratepayer at some point with another rate hike.
So the 10% increase that went into effect for SAWS at the start of this year, we know that. We know that number. It's a hard and fast number. But these other increases, we're going to have to just wait and see what that looks like.
We're going to have to wait to see. We're also going to have to wait and see what CPS Energy does.
Yes.
So last week, a really good source of mine who preferred to remain unnamed, but they were familiar with the internal thinking of CPS, told me that they will almost certainly seek a rate increase this year, which they did not deny. I mean, I called CEO Paula Gold-Williams for a comment. She didn't say it's not going to happen, and she said, look, we've been, it's been 6 years since we've had a rate increase.
It's been a while for them. It hasn't been an annual tradition like it has for SAWS.
I mean, I think, when CPS comes out and asks for a rate increase, the context is going to be different, just because, unlike SAWS, they haven't been going to city council and community groups for 4 consecutive years, trying to get rate increases. They'll have kind of a clearer field, but I mean, this is happening in a context where, ratepayers, SAWS customers are CPS customers, and SAWS customers have seen their rates increase for 4 years straight. That may kind of shade how they feel about paying more money for their CPS bill, but it's, we'll have to see what kind of case CPS Energy executives make for the rate increase, but it's been 6 years. I mean, it costs money to generate this stuff, and we like having lights, and the internet's great, so,
All right, so I won't say look forward to it, but look forward
to it. Stuff's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's not great, but it's going to happen, so.
All right. Okay, let's talk about some good news for shoppers, some tough competition for retailers. Retail space is it's pretty full here.
It is. So this story kind of goes back a decade, where retailers and real estate developers were watching Amazon and saying, "Oh, I mean, this thing looks big.
What are they going to do
yeah,
to
what are
us?"
they? Yeah, I mean, are they going to completely devour us only just kind of devour us halfway and leave us crawling along for life? I don't know. But the upshot was they said, okay, well, we're going to just not develop stuff for a while. We're just going to we're going to cool off on building new retail space. We're going to manage the space we have and just see what happens. Well, what happened was, the market share of Amazon did increase, but the overall market increased. And it turns out that, hey, people still like going to shop in a physical place. Every now and then, I guess when they're bored with Amazon or whatever, don't want to be by themselves anymore in front of a computer, they'll go out and actually pick stuff up and look at them and kind of
touch it and
and then
goodness.
Flip the price tag and say, well, I'm going to touch and look at something else. So they still like doing that. The problem is you've had years now of developers being really gun shy, just afraid of having empty spaces, are now kind of scrambling. It's like, okay, there's obviously demand here. But it's taking a while for that construction to gen up. And in the meantime, you've got retailers who, they're seeing their rents increase. And when, in some cases, they're being squeezed out for kind of higher profile retailers, other tenants. And as soon as one shop either moves or goes out of business, I mean, there's you've got a crush of retailers trying to get into that space.
And we've seen some big retailers go out of business
in
the last couple of years.
Yeah,
Toys R Us.
Exactly.
Sears.
Right, and and that kind of feeds into it now, because when they go, when they go into bankruptcy, either they're going to go out of business altogether, or you can at least rest assured that they're going to close a portion of their stores. And that's what's happened across the country and in San Antonio. So you've got Sears stores closing, Toys R Us stores closing, and those are big spaces. So we're finding that developers or property owners are now kind of subdividing that space, and it's going to smaller retailers. And I think right now that seems to be how it's going. I mean, the big department stores like Sears, those are kind of a thing of the past. More specialized retailers, higher end retailers, they're going to do okay. But there's clearly enough activity to warrant more construction. And I think you will see more of that. More strip malls and things like that coming onto the market in coming years. It's just really tight right now.
I guess I'm just happy to know people actually still want to go shop.
Well, yeah, I mean,
we're not all going to sit alone behind our screens.
I know. So it's great that they want to go shop. The next phase should be maybe talking to one another.
Conversation.
Maybe.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Not to be socialist or anything, but maybe.
Okay, let's talk about another topic that it's always a work in progress for the city of San Antonio, kind of the elephant in the room, the airport.
Oh yeah, so much. It's amazing. We can, at the Express News, it almost doesn't matter what we write about the airport. We get this huge response. People just watch the airport.
People are into what is happening or not happening at the San Antonio airport.
And I actually raised this point in one of my columns. It's I really believe that the city's airport is a reflection. It's like a mirror we kind of hold up to ourselves. And some people can look at the airport and say, well, this is a good solid little airport. It's easy to get through. It's very, its design is very simple. It's not complicated, and it doesn't need to be. And then others will look at it and say, this is where we are as a city. We're not, it lacks sophistication. It lacks, direct flights to Boston, for example. That's a big one. And it's hard to get from here to Washington, and not easy to get to New York. And if you want to talk about international flights, forget about it. Like, unless you're talking about, Mexico pretty much, there's nothing.
And that's one thing that the Express News recently published an article about, comparing Austin's direct flights to Europe.
Yeah, which is...
with our lack of
I know,
such.
yeah. It's always anathema, which is why we do it. Because it's just kind of, why not? So we looked at Austin for a good reason. They picked up their first international, their first European flight 5 years ago. So it was in 2015. It was a flight, a British Airways flight to London. And, this was a result of years of relationship building between, Austin, city and business leaders and the airline. And it's done really well, so much so that Norwegian Air has joined British Airways for a London flight. And it's, there's no indication that that's going to go away anytime soon. And this year they're going to get, Austin-Bergstrom will get direct flights to Amsterdam and Paris, and they've already picked up two flights, at least one flight to Frankfurt.
And meantime, the San Antonio International Airport is struggling to have some direct options to some big domestic U.S. cities.
Exactly.
So are these airlines saying, here's why we're not looking at San Antonio?
Yeah, I mean, they are. It's part of it has to do with our metro area. It's just, it is a lower income metro area. Our corporate class is not as dynamic and doesn't, frankly, travel overseas as often as Austin-based businesses. So, that's a real problem, and that's what airlines look at. I mean, if they're going to go to the trouble of, establishing a route at an airport, they need bodies to fill those seats.
To travel
right? Yeah,
that route.
Exactly. I mean, the days of LBJ in the 1960s. Joe Cryer loves to tell this story about how he wanted a flight to Washington. So he got it. I mean, because he was president at the time, so he got it. And that thing lasted for years, even though there were very few people, actually in the cabin at the time. Those days are over. It's every route has to be justified by passengers, and airlines have concluded San Antonio is just not there yet.
All right, so we keep working on our work in progress.
We're going to work on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I guess that's a good way to start the new year. We're just going to keep working on it. So, all right.
Happy 2020.
Hey, you too. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.